Hey everyone. So in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about using horizontal resequencing with inside of Fmod. And specifically, we're going to use branching. And the difference between, so what branching is the ability for a system to wait for a musical phrase to end before then going on to a different musical phrase. So I'm going to set one up with three different states, and this one happens to be a little bit more complicated than the last tutorial. What we're going to do is actually build one which has reverb tails, and the reverb tails all have to be split within Fmod unlikewise, and the projects can get fairly complicated once you do that. So the first thing I'm going to do is open up Fmod, save a project to my desktop, so Command D for desktop on a Mac, and I'll call this Fmod branching with reverb tails. Okay, I'll need to create an event. I need to right click in this column over here to create my new event. I'm going to actually use two tracks, so I'll right click on this track here and add a new audio track. Actually, I think I need two, so I'll add two audio tracks. Then I need to go to the master track, and because this is underscore or extra diegetic music, I don't need the distance attenuator. If this were an object that sat in a 3D world and I moved away from that object, I want the sound to decrease and I'd want the distance attenuation. But when I'm using underscore, I don't want the volume to go down if I move away from an object. So what I'll do is just delete that like so. Okay. Now I'm going to start importing our audio files. So on my desktop, I have a branching project, and within that branching project, I have all my loops and tails for all my loops. I have three states: state 1, state 2, state, and then state 3. Each one of these has between 3 or 4 phrases within each state. We also have an intro in it, and I'm going to start with my intro. I'm going to go ahead and put that in. Then I need to start with state 1. So I'm going to go ahead and pull 1A in. And then the 1A tail follows that right away, like so. And then 1B starts right after that. It starts on top of when the tail is playing. Then I have 1C. Oops, I forgot the 1B tail. Then I need the 1C tail. Okay, and then lastly, I need 1D and 1D tail. Okay. All right, so state 1 should play fine now. So if I start playing these back to back, I'll just start in the middle of loop 1A. Coffee, good morning. So eventually I'm going to need state 1 to loop. Now this is where things get a little challenging, because when I loop back around from 1D, I want to play 1D over loop 1A, right? I want to play that tail over here. But the first time I play it over here, I don't want that to happen because the intro, I don't want the 1D tail to play over 1A when I play the intro. So I'm actually going to repeat 1A here. So what I'll do is repeat 1A. Oops, not the 1A tail, sorry. That was a right click, by the way. So I'll go here 1A, and 1A will play again here. And then we have the 1A tail. But I don't need that because I'm going to show you what we're going to do. So now I'm going to loop. And so I need to kind of loop back from the end of this to here, but I'm looping to 1B because I've already played 1A. and see the tail's already sitting here. So I just need to loop that section. So I can go up here and go new loop region, like so, and it's going to loop like this. All right, so 1A is at the end, but this is the best way to do it. There are a couple other ways to do it, but I find that this is the most logical in terms of how we're laying out our project. So we have our intro and one state 1 all taken care of. Okay, next we need to do state B, or sorry, state 2. So let's go ahead and set up a marker for that. Here's a marker here, and I'm going to call this state 2. In fact, why don't I create one over here called state 1, 2. Now, you may notice that I'm putting it at the very beginning. We're going to move that around later. We're not going to worry too much about state 1. We're going to think of this kind of as a linear piece that goes from the intro to state 1 to state 2 to state 3 to the end, kind of like we're doing a game on rails. Once you get that concept in your head, then it will be a little bit easier for you to then think about this differently in terms of going back from state 2 to state 1 and things like that. But that will only make our project infinitely more complicated. So I'm just going to start out by doing this. So let's build state 2. So I need 2A here with the 2A tail. And then immediately following, I need 2B, the 2B tail. This is when we make Shakespeare jokes. 2C, I don't know, do you ever joke about Shakespeare? Is that like allowed? Okay, then I have 2D to take care of. So pull in 2D. Remember that the tails have to overlap with the next region that we have. All right. So this is working pretty well and works pretty cool. Now we have to kind of think, so this is our state 2 region. Now we have to think about each different outcome. When we're coming from loop 1A, we want the 1A tail to play, and when we're coming from loop 1C, we want the 1C tail to play. And so essentially with state 2 here, we need to set it up so that state 2 actually has different intros. So I'm going to just move this stuff over here so that we can start thinking about how the intro goes. In fact, this is how I kind of want you to think about it, is we're going to need multiple instances of 2A. So what I'll do is I'll copy 2A and then paste it over here. Here's 2A. Now, okay, so this is where things get a little complicated. When I go from 1A to 2A, I need to have the 1A tail. So I'll go ahead and put that in, like so. When I go from 1B to 2A, I'll need the 1B tail. So this is where, okay, how do we do this exactly? So this is what I'm going to do. Let's move state 2 to start at 2B with the 2A tail. Over here, I'm going to say, let's call this state 2B since that's where it starts. And let's add a marker here. Remember, this is the 2A loop that comes from 1A. So I'm going to say state 2A from 1A, right? So when I finish 1A and want to go to state 2, I'm going to play that with the 1A tail. Then I'm at the end of this phrase, I'm going to jump to 2B. So I'll add a transition that goes to 2B here at the end. I have to do that for each one of the variations. And this is super tedious, which is why I said this is kind of complicated. So let's do a couple more and then start to kind of listen. So basically I'm still setting up here. I'm going to move my 2B state over here. And so I have this going to state 2B. So that's from 1A, but I'm going to need a start the same kind of thing here. So I'll need a 2A, so I'll copy that, paste it here. And then I need the 1B tail for this example. Line it up, add a new marker, and this is state 2A from 1B. Okay, so you can see I'm going to need to do this 2 more times. So I'm going to do another state 2A. And this one will be a marker, and we'll call this marker state 2A from 1C. By the way, you may have noticed that I forgot to copy this over. I can actually copy it and then paste so that when we get to the end of that phrase, then we kind of go to the next phrase, which would be 2B. Okay, so this is from 1C, so I need the 1C tail, like so. And then I need to copy this again, and then paste it at the end. Okay, I have one more to go. So I'll create one more marker. And this will be state 2A from 1D. So I'm going to need the 1D tail. I'm going to need loop 2A. Copy, paste it over here. Then lastly, I'll need the state B 2B transition. We'll paste it here. Okay, now we need to set up the logic. Let's do one more thing with state. So once we go to state 2B, we're going to have to remember that we jump right here. I don't think I need this anymore. This is the 2D tail. Oh yeah, I'm going to need the 2D tail. There we go. Put 2D where it's supposed to go. Then similar to my first state 1 section, I'm actually going to put 2A right here. So 2A is going to jump to 2B, and that is the 2A tail. So I'm going to go ahead and add a transition to state 2B. Oops. Like so. So it'll actually loop back correctly around. Okay, I will save my project here because that's a lot of information, a lot of stuff going on all at one time. Okay, so let's put in our initial transitions to get from state 1 to state 2. So when we get to the end of loop 1B, that's where we're going to start. So we'll add in a transition to 2A from 1B. Okay, so that's where it's going to go, and go over to state 2A. But we need to change it a little bit because we're going to need a parameter, because we don't want it to happen all the time. Right now, if I play it, it's going to jump right to that place, right? So here we go. It's going to jump to here, and then it's going to jump to 2B. Okay. So we're going to need a parameter for that, so I'll go ahead and add a parameter. I can work in Fmod for a while, so I just maximize that. So I'll add a parameter, and I'll call it location. And I'll just keep the normal generic variables for that, 0 to 1. This is the location parameter, which now goes from 0 to 1, and we have a knob at the top of the screen that allows us to kind of adjust that, or I can just, click on it and go to a specific region. We're not going to put any sounds in here at this moment. What we're going to do is we're going to go back to our timeline, and we're going to choose this transition, the one that goes from 1B over to, that goes to 2A from 1B. I have to add in a parameter. So I only want that to happen if my parameter is, say, 0.2 or higher. Okay, so I want to, I'm going to copy this and then paste it and then change it a little bit. So at the end of 1C, if I go to that next region, I still have this set up so it only happens when my parameter is above 0.2. But I don't want to go to, I want to go to 2A, but I want to go from 1C, like so. And then similarly, I'm going to paste, and then at my 1D transition, I want to go ahead and set the destination to 2A from 1D. Okay, and we are getting close. So now when we go, and then I can either put the transition right here at the end or maybe right at the beginning of the loop. So I'm going to add it right to the beginning of the loop. So this will go from state 2A from 1A, because we're looping back around. And since I didn't copy it, I have to make sure the location parameter is the same, so it's 0.2 or above. Okay, I'm going to save. So that's basically how you do it. I would continue that with state 3 and the exit, but let's play it to hear it. While we're playing this, I should make a couple of notes. Now, there is a simpler way to do this with multi-sounds inside of Fmod Studio, but your phrase lengths need to all be the same. You have to have a specific, the tempos all have to be the same. And that could be kind of a hassle to set up. It means that your music is going to be a little stilted. Most professional composers use multiple meters, they use multiple tempos, sometimes rubato, and this will always guarantee that it's going to work. All right, so let's say we go to location 2 now, and now I go into that next region. You can see down here, 0.2. What's going to happen is when I get to the end of this phrase, it's going to go to the next section. I'm going to try and zoom out a little bit. So it's going to go to state 2A from 1C, then jump to 2B, mistake. So I'm going to roll into that section so that I can see it a little bit better. Because my 2A section played at the end of the tail, so that was bad. So now it will work properly. Now you can fill out the rest of the session with that basic knowledge. Basically, now I'd fill out the state 2 section, where I basically then go to state 3. I would have a marker over here basically saying state 3 from 2A. And then I'd fill in the tail from 2A, and I'd have a 2B section, and then I'd kind of set it up like state 2 here. And that's basically how you'd set up a more complicated Fmod branching project with reverb tails. Let me know if you have questions. Good luck.